Today I'll be changing out the rear differential gasket on my 2014 F150. I have a 6-inch lift with 35s on it, so using a jack isn't going to be necessary for me, thankfully, to crawl underneath this. So what you're going to need, it's like 28 degrees outside, so I'm trying to chase the chill out of my garage. So what you're going to need is a hammer, a flat tip screwdriver, a 3/8-inch drive torque wrench and ratchet. I have a 3-inch extension with a 1/2-inch socket, a little brush, oil pan, and possibly a funnel. You might not need the funnel. Some paper towel. There's my 12-bolt new gasket, RTV sealer, and 3 quarts of 75-140 fully synthetic. And this has limited slip additive already in it. If you don't have that with your new gear oil, I would recommend getting a little bottle and then just pouring it right into one of these bottles as you're refilling. You might be able to use that, I don't even know yet myself, on these bottles if I can reach up in there, or if I'm going to have to use this funnel or possibly cut it down a little bit. I have a little brush. I use my air compressor with the blower nozzle to blow out the dirt in my garage, and then use the brush to clean off the bolts itself and the rear differential. So when you crawl underneath your truck, let me shut that compressor off. Perfect timing for that to kick in, huh? So I was plowing this winter. There's my plow, and I believe that the when I backed up into the snow or over something, I don't know, I bumped up against the rear of my differential cover here, and that gasket material came right off. You can see where it was, and it was hanging down here like a big booger like this far, so I just pulled it off. Anyway, you can see I've only had the truck in the garage for about an hour or so, and it's already starting to leak. It's been leaking for about 2 or 3 weeks now. So this is your rear differential cover. Mine, like I said, is a 12-bolt. So take all your bolts out except for these side two. This one here and the one over there, which my brake line is attached to right now on a little, I don't know, attachment around the head of the bolt. So leave those in, because what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to break this gasket loose. And how you do that is you stick your flat tip screwdriver and just lightly tap around where the bolts were that you took out to break that cover loose on the top and bottom. And once that's loose, you can pull those other 2 bolts out, take your cover off, and let's pretend this is facing you now. So get everything, use your razor blade to clean off all the gasket material on your rear differential and your cover itself. Get it down to the bare metal. So when you put your RTV sealer back on, just go straight over the holes. Let's pretend this is facing you. That's the best way to put your gasket material back on, your RTV sealer. So put that right on the cover. Put your gasket right over that sealant when it's off, and then take that gasket sealant and come up to your differential. Let's pretend this is off, and do it in the same pattern around the differential holes with your RTV sealer, and then put your gasket and cover back onto the differential. Put those 2 side bolts back in. Don't tighten any of the bolts up. Just set them in there. Start your threads on all the bolts, but don't tighten them up yet. And then when you're tightening them up, like lugs on a rim, do it in a cross pattern. So 20 foot-pounds is what this vehicle calls for putting your bolts back in your differential. So do it in a cross pattern from top to bottom. However you choose, just do it in a cross pattern when you're tightening those back up. Once you have that all back together, you're going to want to come to the front over here of your differential, and there's a little filler plug right there. It's kind of hard to see on here, but that's just a 3/8-inch drive socket. So a ratchet. You can put that on there, put your extension on there if you want, and just back that little filler plug out. When you have everything apart, I'm going to back up here. When you have everything apart, take your paper towel and clean out everything inside of this differential really well. You might have some metal shavings as well as that little filler plug. Just make sure you get all the oil and debris that's on there off. Make sure everything is just super clean before you put this cover back on. You're even going to have like a little reservoir on the passenger side here. You can't see it, but once you look down in there, make sure you scoop all that oil and old junk out of there. Like I said, just make sure everything is really clean. You're going to see your gears and everything once you take that off. It's going to be hard wiping those down. Just make sure you get everything off that was on there. And then put your 2.5 quarts or whatever it takes back into that filler plug when you're done. And just let the oil just kind of leak down. It's going to start dripping. It's going to start dripping right straight down here. That's okay. That means it's full. So that's what you're going to want to achieve when you're all done. Have fun and good luck.